All right, everyone, so we're going to go over the trades from today. This is kind of a classic pre-holiday trading day where we didn't have a lot of volume, liquidity was a little lower, and we didn't have any companies that came out with awesome news. Not surprising. I mean, it's Thanksgiving week. We've got the market closed on Thursday, Friday's a half day, so probably tomorrow is going to be the same. And the challenge here is figuring out what is obvious. And if you can't tell which stock is obvious, then there isn't an obvious stock. That's the easiest way to figure it out. So today, because we didn't have an obvious stock, a lot of traders were jumping on either continuation from yesterday or stocks that were starting to pop up, but they either didn't have news, but they were just kind of moving for whatever reason, or had some kind of headline, but it wasn't super substantial. And so the result today was attention was scattered. I did get some trades. I got green. I actually went down into the red, rallied back from red, back to green. And then I was like, you know what? That's enough of that. I don't really want to overstay my welcome. Something I remind people of is there will only be one day of your career that's your best day ever, and only one day that's your worst day ever. And everything else is just in between. So a small green day, a small red day, doesn't really matter. In fact, the most important thing is that you keep your red days as small as possible so that when you get back onto a nice hot streak, you're not digging yourself out of the hole, you're just net profit. So let's look at the P&L from today. Sitting at about halfway to the daily goal, $2,416.54. Biggest winner on Zena. That was also the stock I did quite well on yesterday. Zena this morning actually squeezed up to nearly $17 a share. And I kind of called it. I said it in my recap yesterday that if this held up after hours, we would probably get a squeeze at 4 a.m. And that's exactly what happened. Wow, what an amazing move. Unfortunately, for those of us that, are on the East Coast and maybe don't sit down at 3:45 to start trading, when I sat down at 7 a.m. here, or I guess it's 7 a.m. about here, I saw this big topping tail, and it was on high volume, 2 million shares of volume. So I was like, that really kind of marks the high. Now, I was able to get some trades on it, even in spite of that, but it wasn't able to get back to the highs, and that doesn't surprise me. I was really thinking, all right, that is what it is. Now I got to find the next one. But we didn't really have a next one today. Well, at least we haven't so far. And we might not because, like I said, it's kind of a holiday week. So reminder, we've got our Black Friday sales going on right now. They have already started. So if you want to check them out, you can come over to warriortrading.com. You can click on the Join Now button, and then you'll see our Warrior Starter, Warrior Pro, and Warrior Pro special offer. These are all going on right now for Black Friday. So you can check those out. All right, so first trade of the day, broke the ice on Zena. That was the first stock I traded, and it might have also been the last one. So I jumped in this at about $11.45, a price of $11.45, and that was right here at 7. It squeezed up, it dipped down, and when it came back up, I got in. It popped back up over the $0.50. Made a couple $100, nothing really exciting. It dips down, comes back up here. I added back, it dips down, and I'm red. So I ended up going green on my first trade, going red on the second. Let's start tracking the P&L for today. Wait a second, that camera doesn't look right. It's frozen. All right, it doesn't matter. So started the day, green 400, went red, a little over $1,000. I was red actually 1,400. So red 1,400, that's not great. This ends up going kind of more or less sideways. And, it was like, all right, what are we doing here? It bounced off of VWAP right around this area. It hits VWAP, bounces back up, double bottoms off of VWAP. I took that dip and we got to bounce back up to 1150. All right, got myself back to green on the day, up $39. Not much, but it's still early, so no big deal. So first couple trades on Zena, broke the ice, got red, green, red, green, red. So next stock, SMTK. This stock goes from $6.50 all the way up to $11 a share, and it happened real quick. It then sells off down here. And this one was kind of annoying because it sold off, and it ends up curling back up here. And as it curled back up, I took this trade right here, looking for this move back to the high, and I lost $3,000 on it. Now, this is jumping forward a little bit because this was at about 8 a.m. I didn't take the initial spike, but I waited for it to curl back up, and that did not work at all. So that put me further in the red. My lowest point today was down about 2,800 bucks. But I was down, but not out. My max loss is $5,000. So it wasn't below max loss. Felt like, all right, it's obviously not ideal to be in the red, but I'm not at max loss. So I can still I'll probably work my way out of this. Let's just see if anything pops up. So then we had Toyo. Toyo. This one actually popped up here also at about 8 a.m. It squeezes up, and on the initial pop, I wasn't sure about it. So it pops up here, wasn't sure, sells off, but when it rallied back up, I got in for this rally back up and this break over 6, and I ended up having my best trade of the day on this stock. I also got another trade in this area right here as it came back up for the second attempt, but unfortunately, high volume red candle marked the high, and it just wasn't able, it was just too risky after that. The interesting thing with Toyo is that it's a solar company, Vietnamese solar company, and although they have a headline here, I was a little concerned about whether or not this was going to work because, right now there's been some concern that renewable energy companies aren't going to do well in a Trump administration where he's maybe more focused on going back to oil drilling in the United States. So not really sure, what's, I don't know. It's just anyways, it did pop up. The float was a little higher and it was very thickly traded, but it ended up being at the time my biggest winner. So that was good. And then NCPL. NCPL hits the scanners. It's a cheaper stock. I got in at $2.44 for the break of 250 and rejection. Had news, but didn't matter. So that rejected, lost 2,000 bucks on that one. And that put me back down in the red. Then I had UAVS. UAVS, I took a couple trades on. This one, I peaked at about $1,700 of profit, but I wasn't able to hold on to it. It started squeezing right here. I jumped on this pullback for that pop, this pullback for that pop, and then I gave back some profit up here, gave back some profit up here, and did not trade it here. So I kept thinking it was going to go higher, but it just kept not breaking out. And again, this is sort of the challenge with it just wasn't obvious enough. There were other stocks people were paying attention to. They weren't all super strong, but it was creating a lot of dispersed attention. MAXN, didn't trade this one, 14 million share float, also a solar company, right? So solar company here on this one. I think this is a Singapore stock. So let's just double check that. Yeah, Singapore. So anyways, that one, didn't trade it. Thought the float was a little high. Wasn't sure about it. I had the final trade. Oh, I had CTXR, which was a reverse split today. This one popped up and dropped down. I lost 1,000 bucks on it. And actually, I bought a dip, but it just went lower. So I had to cut my loss on that one. And then my final trade was Zena. So final trade on Zena coming into the open, started and ended the day with this one, and would have been better off, I guess, if I had only traded this one. Sometimes that's the case, but you just never know. So anyways, I got in this right about here. So it popped up, pulled back, and I was like, all right, here we go. If we break this 1150 pivot, then I'm looking for a break of 12, and we got that move from 1150 up to 12. Pulled back, rallied back up, got a small trade there going into the open, and then was all out at the open, halted down twice. Bounced back up, selling off. So not the clean day I was hoping for, but, again, it's a green day, a small green day. Yesterday was a green day. I was a little bit over the daily goal after my second recap. So finished yesterday at like 7,500. Today's 2,400. So all right, $10,000 on the week. That in fact is daily goal, 5,000 a day, Monday and Tuesday. So I'm right on track based on daily goals. I've been a little optimistic that I could really crush it because we've been in a market where when we see a stock that squeezes, I can do really well. And look, if Zena had squeezed like this from, at 7 a.m. or 7:30 or 8, I would have had an amazing day. But it happened early. So, all right, well, that's the luck of the draw. I missed that one, but I'll get the next one. And that's the thing I always try to remind myself is that if I miss one trade, there's always going to be another one around the corner. So there's no sense in getting bent out of shape and chasing a stock. There'll be another one. Now, I saw PGHL halted. And this one's kind of interesting. So PGHL, it's up 98% here. And let me just check the halt code on this. So I'm going to pull up NASDAQ halts, because it's not showing a resumption price, which is a little unusual. Usually you would see a resumption price on this. So it says right now that it's a limit up, limit down halt from 948, but they're not showing a resumption price, and it's now been, 30 minutes almost, and it hasn't resumed. That's odd. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is, but it's lighter volume, no clear catalyst. So, for right now, I'm just steering clear, not pushing my luck, not on that. What we would need for me to be willing to break the ice and take more trades is something to become obvious. We had it yesterday on Zena. Zena became obvious later in the day. We had a couple nice moves yesterday, and Zena was one of them. But yeah, at this point right now, I don't see anything that's obvious. You look at the leading percentage gainer. Well, it's a buyout today, so that's nothing. PGHL, well, it's light volume. It's halted. TOYO, the chart's not quite right. It's pulled back too much. VC, no. Foxo, no. So we've got a lot of stocks that are up, or moving, but none that feel really obvious. And it's possible that today will just kind of be, a wash, and we're not going to get any more. And look, some days are like that. So you got to know when to be aggressive and when to ease off the throttle. Today felt like a day to kind of batten down the hatches, be careful. At one point I was like, wow, this is a really hard day. I mean, it's like red on CTXR, red on NCPL, red on SMTX or TK. And I had a couple losses on Zena before it started to work. And I gave back some profit on UAVS. So to be honest, my accuracy today was not solid. It was not as good as normal. And maybe that's a cue that I should be a little bit more careful tomorrow. Try to build my cushion and just expect that since it's a holiday week, it might be a little choppier. But it's always a good time to study, and you can still gain experience. And I hope that you guys are doing that, practicing in the simulator and getting a feel for these markets. So thank you as always for tuning in. I will remind you, we've got our Black Friday sales going on right now, so you can come on over and check those out. And don't forget, hey, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, and there's no guarantee you'll find success. Whether you trade with me or you'll learn on your own. So take it slow and always practice this simulator before you put real money on the line. All right, I'll see you for my next episode real soon.